He's probably the youngest director Bombay's produced. He's certainly one of the most successful, and now the world is awaiting his new film with bated breath. But what is he himself like? So far, that's been a mystery, but today it could be about to change because he's my guest. His name is, wait for it, Karan Johar. Welcome to the program, Karan.
Thank you, Karan.
My compliments on your name. Your parents clearly have good taste.
They do, don't they?
Now, I gather your fascination with Hindi films goes all the way back to your childhood, but at the time, I'm told, you were quite embarrassed about it. Why?
Oh, very. It wasn't considered cool to watch Hindi films when I was in school. So I used to lie to all of them in school. And I said, my father's like, he's an exporter, because we were exporters. And I said, oh, we don't make Hindi films at all. They're just so uncool.
But what happened when one of your father's films actually came out? Didn't they recognize the name?
I was in the 9th standard, and my father's film Muqaddar Ka Faisla released, and it was this big multi-starrer, and it used in Mahalakshmi, an area in Bombay, there was this huge banner that said Yash Johar's Muqaddar Ka Faisla. So everyone in school said, isn't that film your father's? And I said, no way, that's not my father's, that's somebody else. My father's an exporter, we don't make Hindi movies.
So you put as much distance as you could between Bollywood and your father, the producer, and yourself.
Completely. That was another world for me, and I didn't want to acknowledge it at all for some odd reason.
But there was a Hindi film that you used to come back from school practically every day and watch on the VHS. Do you remember it?
Silsila. Watched it about 40 times, if not 80, I don't remember. I just watched it every day. I just loved it.
So that you were leading two lives at the time?
Yeah. One at home and one back at school. The exporter and the filmmaker in me, there was a big tussle.
But I gather it was your friendship with Aditya Chopra that actually got you into making films. And it all happened by accident.
Well, yeah, actually, Aditya Chopra is somebody I've known ever since I was a child. He was, well, I can't say he was a childhood friend, because we used to meet at birthday parties, you know, these filmy birthday parties, especially Abhishek and Shweta's, Mr. Bachchan's two children. Every year, annually, they used to have this big party in March.
So you'd meet each other in your party?
I used to meet him. I used to meet Adi. We all call him Adi, and his brother were there. And I used to come back and tell my mother, I said, you know, don't send me to these parties. This Juhu gang, they're so filmy, and they only talk in Hindi. My mother said, how can you say something like that? I said, you know, they are very filmy. They only discuss Hindi films. And I said, it's so appalling, and don't send me. They're just very verny, you know. So my mother used to get very upset. You know, she said, you can't say that, we're all family friends. And I bumped into Adi again after when I was in college. We had a common friend. We met again and then got really close. And I think he made me realize that I have a filmmaker in me, which I'm just running away from. I thought I would do mass communications and I would be a journalist, maybe something in maybe media advertising.
In fact, you were preparing to go to Paris, weren't you?
I was. I had done my French at the Alliance Française at Bombay, and I was ready to do my mass communication in French at a university in Paris. I was very keen to go there. I was all set to go. I had planned everything, paperwork, everything. And suddenly this change happened in my life.
Suddenly he offered you the position of an assistant director on Dilwale Dulhania.
He kind of called me. We got really close by then, you know, very friendly, and we'd watched a lot of movies together. And one day he called me, he said, you know, I have a story, and I've decided to call it Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge. I want to run it by you, and can I just come? And he used to stay in Juhu, which is an hour and a half away from where I was. I was at Malabar Hill. So he came there once, and he just narrated it to me. And he said, what do you think? And I said, oh, it's great, it's fantastic, and it's so lovely. And he said, but I haven't scripted it, this is just a thought. So he started coming every day for 3 weeks, and I used to keep wondering why he keeps coming to ask me for my opinion. And he would keep coming and say, okay, how do you think Shah Rukh and Kajol should meet, and how should this happen, how should that? And I used to keep giving my, what I thought were very amateur kind of opinions on the plot. And one fine day after 3 weeks, he said, you know, you're so closely associated with the film now that you've been part of the screenplay, the whole process. Why don't you assist me? I said, me make a Hindi film? I said, no, it's not in me, I can't do it. I can't direct a film, I just don't have it in me. He said, oh, think about it. I'm telling you, I think you have it in you. And I don't know what made me think that maybe he was somewhere, maybe it was kind of, it was something that was in me always, and I hadn't realized it by then. So I ran it by my mother, and she said, you'll have to ask your father, you know, and I ran it by, he said, why are you assisting Aditya? Assist Yash Chopra, you know, he's the big man. I said, something makes me feel I should assist him. Just give me this 1 year, you know, really, and let me see what happens. So that's how it really all happened.
You acted in the film as well.
Let's not get into that.
Why?
That's rude and mean of you to bring up.
You know, to prove of Karan Johar the actor?
Not at all, my God. Didn't you see the film and how awful I was? My mother refused to acknowledge it was me, because God, it was a nightmare.
So if I was to say it looked just like you, you wouldn't like that at all?
No, not at all. Actually, there was somebody else who was supposed to do it, and we were in Switzerland. And the boy who was supposed to do it got malaria in Bombay, and he couldn't fly down. And so suddenly Shah Rukh and Adi were looking really upset one day, sitting in one of the chalets where we were shooting. And Adi said, like, you know, I don't know, that boy hasn't come, and somebody has to do that role. So I said, yeah, I think, you know, I think you should really consider, you know, I kept trying to think, who could do it. And suddenly Shah Rukh said, I know who's going to do it. It's going to be you. So I said, no, I can't do it, And then finally they just made me do it. Somewhere I think I was quite happy doing it actually at that point in time. I was quite excited.
In fact, Shah Rukh plays quite a major role in things that you've been doing, because I gather that the idea that you should direct your own first film wasn't yours, it was his, I'm told.
Yeah, because I still remember the moment. We were sitting outside, we were shooting in a hotel called Hotel Sannenhof in Sarnen, Switzerland, next to Stade. And we were sitting and he was having coffee and he said, Karan, you should direct. So I said, yeah, another 7 to 8 years, I think I'm going to assist Adi some more and then probably take some more practical, learn some more practical experience, in terms of experience. So he said, no, I think you should direct immediately. I said, immediately? I said, no, I think you've kind of lost it. I can't do it immediately. I said, I need so much more training. He said, no, I think you should. And Kajal was hanging around behind. And she said, what are you talking about? So Shah Rukh said, no, I told Karan that if he does his first film fast, I'll do it. So she said, if you're doing it, then so will I. So I just looked at them and I said, really, how sweet of them. And I said, they'll forget about it.
So one day over coffee in Stade, it all just fell into place for you.
Right there. And when I came back to Bombay, he followed it up. He called me. He said, come and meet me, and I'll allot you dates October 97. And that's exactly what he did.
But the amazing thing is you did everything. You weren't just the director, you were the scriptwriter, you did the dialogues. How come you decided to play practically all the important behind-the-scene roles?
I don't know. Adi told me, he said, Karan, you can write the story. I kept saying, can I do it? I don't know if I can do it. He said, you're a better writer than you are a
director. But it was in the Verni, as you call it.
Yeah, it was very Verni. But by then I thought it was the coolest thing to do, to make a Hindi film.
So you speak the language properly?
Yeah, I do. Huh? I do. Don't start on
You hid it from yourself all the time. Don't start on it.
I stutter on camera, but I can. I write my dialogue, so I think I can.
The amazing thing is that, you'd never made a movie before, and here you were as director, scriptwriter, dialogue writer. Where did you start?
I ran away actually. I went to London for about 4 to 5 months. I remember, again with my parents, we went on our vacation. I decided to stay on. And I had 2 ideas in mind really, about 2 films that I thought I would make in my lifetime. And actually Kuch Kuch Hota is a blend of both those 2 ideas. And I still remember the exact point where I thought of how I could kind of connect the 2
But you needed to go to London to be able to just put it all together.
Not at all. That sounds quite strange that I needed to go to London. I was just there when I thought of this idea. I remember calling Adi from one of those red phone booths. I said, I think I've got it. I think this is what I'm going to make. And I still remember telling him the one scene, the interval point of the film. I said, this is going to be the interval point. And I think this is what... There was one story that was a triangle, a tomboy, a very pretty girl, and a boy in college. There was one story about a little child trying to find somebody for her father. And I blended the 2 stories together. That's how Kuch Kuch Hota was born. And I thought of that outside John Lewis in London. And that's where the red booth was. And when I pass it now, I keep saying, okay, idea, come, and nothing comes. So it just came then.
But it's amazing. How much of that film actually is derived from things that you'd learnt and watched? Because you've been a film buff for years. So how much were you consciously, unconsciously recreating and imitating?
It's very spontaneously inspired from the works of very great filmmakers before me. I'm completely inspired by Yash Chopra and Raj Kapoor. And all that reflects my cinema.
In fact, the very beginning of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, that incredible first line, "Hey Rahul, mujhse dosti karoge." I believe
that's my ode to Bobby.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I used to love that line. It was the advertising campaign of Bobby. Hi, I'm Bobby, mujhse dosti karoge. And I used to love it. And I can't say I paid tribute to such a great man, but in my own way, I just wanted part of Bobby in my film, and that's how I managed to do it.
The movie went on to become an absolutely incredible hit, 8 Filmfare Awards and the 3rd highest all-time grosser. Did you at any point in time when you were working on it think that you had this miracle in your hands?
I didn't think it was a miracle.
You just hoped?
I hoped, I prayed, and I knew somewhere it had the makings of being a big hit, but I didn't know the level. You can never really predict.
Why do you think, just stepping back for a moment from your own film, why do you think it's been so successful?
It has a story, and very few films have a story these days. And I knew that the aspect of the film that was the strongest was its story. I think that's why it connected with so many millions of people.
The story?
The fact that it had one.
Let me read you one of the rare critical comments the film's got. It says, a hyper-stylized barrage of cheesy sentiment, badly lip-sync song and dance routines, and inane boy-meet-girl scenarios shot in nauseating soft focus, with wind machines, rain machines, and endlessly flooding tear ducts. Now, I suppose bit by bit all of that might well be accurate, and yet it doesn't detract from the film. Why do you think that's the case?
First tell me who wrote this. Kill him. Or her, whoever wrote it. No, actually, yeah, I've never heard that comment before. It's completely thrown me off.
You don't like it?
No, you never do. But no, I can understand what the critic is trying to say, because it is a designed VP, and it was designed to look very glamorous and very colorful. So there is a lot of thought. I can't say it was all very natural. It all just happened. It was a designed VP. I knew people would cry at the end of the film. It was meant
Why
to
do you
be.
think you designed it as a VP? Why is it important for people to cry? Because they do, by the way. I
You
howled
can
my
laugh
head
all
off.
the way to the bank. They cry.
The more they cry, the more the
I mean,
tin
Titanic
rings in you.
is a case in point. I think the more you cry, the more money the film generates. People love to have a good cry. I know I love to have a good cry at a movie hall. I love crying in the movie hall, and I knew I would make my first film would be a VP.
Tell me something, do you think that movies that actually make audiences cry touch them emotionally deep down? And is that one reason why your film actually succeeds? Because it evokes emotions, almost at times uncomfortably, and that actually leaves people feeling good. It's a paradox.
That's very true. I think everybody has so much in them emotionally, and I think a film just is a kind of justification for it to all come out. Everyone has their kind of personal problems, their tragedies. Life is full of them. But I think when you watch a film and something connects, a character connects, or something in your life connects with that situation, and you kind of come out with it, and you can easily justify and say it was the film, but actually it has something to do with your own life at times.
So when you hear the title Kuch Kuch Hota, it's not just Kuch Kuch Hota happening on the screen between the actors. There's something Kuch Kuch Hota happening between the audience and the movie.
I think Kuch Kuch Hota is a film about first love, and we've all experienced it. We all have memories of our first love, of the first person we ever loved. And the Kuch Kuch Hota kind of throws you right back into your past. It's happened to loads of people have told me that, they all remember the first girl they ever loved, or, kind of those kind of things. I think so it kind of connected on various levels.
So it's nostalgia, but it's also tears and weeping.
And it also has a child in it, and children make people cry. And I knew that.
Karan, let's take a break. Now I want to come back in part 2 and talk a little bit more about the man who deliberately set out to make us cry, and try and find out whether he himself cries or does nothing but laugh. We'll be back in just a couple of moments. Stick with us. Welcome back. My guest is Karan Johar. I gather as a child you were fat and spoilt.
I'm fat now, I'm not spoiled anymore.
Well, you're not fat any longer, but...
No, these are all the layers. Deceptive dressing.
Were you in fact a fat spoiled?
Very fat. Well, spoiled they all tell me I was, but I was very fat. I was obscenely fat.
What is obscenely fat? I thought Indian children were supposed to be, particularly Punjabi boys, big, fat and cute.
I was fat, I wasn't cute from any angle. I was all 100 kilos of me was very ugly.
I'm also told that your adolescent size and shape was a source of great consternation in school.
It was always I was always the last one who got chosen into the football team, or it was like, okay, who'll take Karan? It was like 10 chosen and the 11th one was me waiting, and everybody saying, oh God, okay, we'll take him this time, but not next time. You have to take him next time. So that was really quite sad, and I was always the one, who. Then once I got very excited, they came and told me, oh, tug of war, you have to be the anchor. So I got so excited. It's a sports event and they wanted me to be the anchor. That's when I realized that every other boy was so thin they had to balance the weight. They needed somebody who was over 85, 90 kilos, and that was me. And when I realized that, that was really quite depressing. I went home crying, I remember that day.
You joke about it very easily today, but at the time when you were young, it must have actually been very difficult to handle.
It was initially because I was very complexed about it. I hated going down and playing with the others because I knew that I couldn't do what they could do. And yet I was lazy to do anything about it. I didn't have that drive, which I still don't. I still don't exercise. But that time it was quite upsetting. So that's why I decided to just leave it all and go to boarding school, which I did.
That's when you left Green Lawns in Bombay and moved to Panchgani.
And that was another phase of my life. That was quite strange.
Yes, you only spent 6 days there. Was it a nightmare?
I gave a a farewell party and went off, and I was back in 6 days, and everybody wanted their presents back. I even tried to run away from Panchgani, I remember. I was completely depressed. I reached there, and it was a new era school at Panchgani, and they follow a Baha'i system of education. So there are lots of people who are like different age groups, in one class. I was 12 that time, but there were 14 and 15-year-olds also in my class. And they put me up in a senior dormitory, Kanga House dormitory, that's what they called it. And I was ragged the first day. And the second day I had people coming and telling me that, why are you here? You're fine, your family setup is all fine, why are you here? And I just didn't have anything. So the third night I decided to run. And I packed my little bag and I tried to escape from the school. I even rolled down the hill and right up to the watchman's foot, and he picked me up and brought me back. The next day my father came, and there was a lot of crying and who and how, and I was back.
Yeah, 6 days later you were back, but the
I was
funny thing
back.
is that debacle at Panchgani actually changed you. It gave you the confidence you didn't have earlier. Odd, isn't that?
It did. It was. I always say that was the kind of turning point in my life. I came back to school, and I came into my own. I became. I started taking part in all the extracurricular activities and debates and drama, all the things that I was good at, but just never acknowledged it before. And I loved school, and I became really popular in the last 2 years of school. And teachers loved me, and I became better at my studies.
Had you become thin by then, or were you still
No, I
big and
was
round?
still as fat, but I just didn't care at that point of time. Then everything else took over, So I always say I thank New Era and I thank Panchgani for that phase in my life, because if I hadn't gone, I would not have discovered myself the way I did.
But running away after 6 days became almost a habit. I gather you did it again years later when you joined Xavier's College in Bombay. 6 days later you were out of there too.
That was my mother's fault, and I'm saying this to her because she said that, how can you do arts? I wanted to do arts at St. Xavier's, and she said Benjis do art, because they learn sociology, and how could you learn subjects like psychology and sociology? You're a man and you must do commerce, and and I always tease her about it today. But the strange thing about that too is I have to thank her as well, because if had I done St. Xavier's and arts, I would have probably not landed up where I am today. Because I went to HR College of Commerce and Economics, and I met a friend who made me meet Adi. So it was all kind of, I always say I'm destiny's child. Things just had to happen.
Your Destiny's Child probably is a great description of you, because in a way it's going to be proven by the new movie that you have coming out. Your second film, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, is coming out. There's a lot of talk about the incredible cast that you've put together. Who all are in it?
Oh dear. Come on, okay. It has Amitabh Bachchan and Jaya Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan and Kajal, Hrithik Roshan and Kareena Kapoor.
My God.
And it has Rani Mukherjee, who's a very close friend, in a special appearance.
And I gather this could very well be Kajal's last proper role in a film.
Well, it's a great loss, I know, to cinema and to me as a filmmaker, but I think that for a long time she may not after that. I think she wants to kind of just take a break.
But after the great success of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and the incredible expectations that's aroused, now reinforced by the incredible cast that you've got, are you under a lot of pressure?
I am. I can't sleep at night.
Do you mean that?
Yeah, I do.
You don't look as if you're sleepless.
No, I'm completely, trust me, don't go by the look. I'm completely hysterical. I get very stressed out, and I'm very, very scared.
What are you
to be very
panicking
honest.
about, that the movie may not succeed?
The expectation. It's just that. I feel whatever I do will not be enough.
What is the story about?
Now that you have to watch. That I can't tell
Not
you
even a
now.
hint?
It's, I'll tell you what it's about. The line of the film is Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, and it's all about loving your parents. I hope to get that across in the film.
Is it another weepy?
I'm not saying.
I gather from the trade magazines that you've got two great achievements under your belt. You've managed to make Amitabh Bachchan sing for you.
No, he hasn't. That's incorrect, actually. He's
Those are just
definitely doing.
rumors.
No, he's doing a song and dance in the film, but he's not singing it. I mean, there was a kind of an item that he's not singing the song. It's being sung by Sudesh Bhosle.
Oh dear, so that's disappointment number one.
Yeah.
The other thing the trade magazines say is that you've recreated on your sets both London and Chandni Chowk.
Yeah, but the interiors of London we put up. Chandni Chowk we put up at Film City, and we've tried to be as kind of authentic about it. We have done that. Yes.
So what's the D date for this movie?
December. I'm not yet sure on the date. It's sometime in December this year.
You're also doing something else that no one's done before. You are writing a book on the making of the film.
Yes, we're attempting to do that.
And that precedes the movie.
It'll release with the film.
So inside the director is also a marketing man.
I'm not at all market savvy at all, but I think that I'm trying to do with this film, trying to bring in merchandising in a very big way, and this book. I'm trying to attempt to do that, but I'm not at all. I mean, don't get me wrong.
So whose idea was it?
This was, the book was a friend of mine who's also a journalist and an author, Niranjan. He came up with the idea. He came and asked me that, why don't we do it because he just read the Titanic, the making of Titanic. He said, this is a big film with a big cast. It would make an interesting book. So I said, okay, let's go for it. And I think there are people who are doing that now as well. I think a lot of others are also following suit.
Now, side by side with your film career, because the world really knows you as a director, but you also do design clothes, particularly, I gather, for Amitabh Bachchan.
No. In the film Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, Amitabh Bachchan's clothes are being done by Manish Malhotra. I did help him out in Mohabbatein. I did all the clothes for him in Mohabbatein. But yeah, I think it's a passion. I love designing clothes. I love doing it on the side.
What sort of clothes did you design? I mean, do you design your own as well?
At times I do. At times I do. This
And
one's mine.
The jacket, the polo neck, or both?
No, just the jacket. The polo neck is not.
I gather that there are a couple of occasions when, in fact, Amitabh has worn your clothes on Kaun Banega Crorepati.
Initially, I made the one we made a kind of an improvised Jodhpuri, which he kind of liked very much, and all the guys at KBC liked it very much. And he then wore it initially. I think the first episode he wore it, and they kind of followed the pattern later. But he took it from Mohabbat. It was one of the costumes of Mohabbat.
You know, I have to ask you, you're barely 28, if 28 at that. You're an extremely successful film director. You made one of the most successful ones. Where do you go from here? What next?
Now you're scaring me. But this one I'm making, and then I've decided to kind of make something radically different the third time round. The second one was this huge star cast, and it's a big film, it's a big kind of a family drama, but I've decided to do different kinds of things after that. I want to do something radically different the third time round. I hope I can achieve that.
What does success mean to you?
Happiness.
That's all?
Yeah, if it doesn't come with that, then it means nothing to me.
So what about recognition, fame, adulation?
All those, I think all those come with success, but at the end of it, I mean, if you're not really happy with what you're doing and how you are at that point of time, then I think you haven't achieved anything.
So when you look back to the days when you thought you were a big fat boy and you weren't successful and you were full of complexes, does today's achievement make you laugh, smile?
It makes me wonder as to how this has happened. It's very strange, but at the risk of sounding very kind of strange about the whole thing, it's just that I've started believing much more in God now than I ever did before, the last 5 years. I just feel that He's done all this, you know, I couldn't have managed all this on my own.
Destiny's child, is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just strange. Everything has just happened to me. I haven't planned anything. I didn't plan to be fat, that I was. I didn't plan to kind of get into and meet Aditya Chopra. He came into my life. I didn't plan to direct my first film. I didn't plan to make Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. I just haven't planned anything. I didn't plan to win all those awards that I did. All that just happened to me, and I just...
God did it.
Yeah, someone's doing it somewhere, and it has to be Him. I can't imagine anyone who loves me more than He does.
In which case, when's God going to arrange for you to get married?
Now, that is the big question. I plan to actually, after my second film, I plan to, because I haven't managed to find anyone, so I'm going to take really nice soft focus photographs and send them all over the place. And if anyone's interested, then I'm available.
But as you said, you haven't found anyone, so all the millions who want to catch you still have a chance.
I don't think anyone wants to catch me, otherwise they would have already. I think I'll have to get married the arranged way. I don't think love is coming my way at all.
Well, good luck, Karan. With a name like that, you definitely can't go wrong. Thank you for a wonderful interview.
Thank you very much.